people are driven by the need to know what happens next. Do you want to know what happens next?
I don't know if he knew that he was born for this, but it was clear I was in the presence of something, and again, I think reflected of so many Ukrainians, that was new to the modern world in terms of courage and dignity.
You think that we will every fall have to prepare ourselves for a booster shot with COVID, just like we get a flu shot?
I think so. Many variants are coming, and Omicron was the first one that was able to evade in a skillful way the immune protection that we were giving. But also we know that the duration of the protection doesn't last very long. So what we are trying to do, and we are working very diligently right now, it is to make not only a vaccine that will protect against all variants, including Omicron, but also something that can protect for at least a year.
So you've seen some of that data on a fourth dose, a second booster shot. You think it will be necessary?
It is necessary.
Breaking news this morning on the COVID vaccine has to do with kids under 5. Moments ago, Moderna released data on trials for its 2-dose vaccine for children aged 6 months to 6 years. The company's planning to submit a request for emergency use authorization to the FDA within weeks. NBC senior medical correspondent Dr. John Torres here with more. A lot of parents of young kids have been waiting for this very moment. So what do we know about the dosing and the efficacy?
So this is going to be the same thing as the Moderna for adults. They're going to get 2 doses 28 weeks apart, but it's only 1/4 of the doses, 25 micrograms versus 100 if you end up getting the Moderna shot for adults. And what we know of the efficacy, it seems a little bit low. It's in the 40% range for this age group, which seems low. But what they said in a study, around 7,000 children, nobody had serious disease, nobody was hospitalized, and nobody died from it. So at the end of the day, that's what we want the vaccine to do.
So that's low efficacy in terms of preventing infection.
Right. So what they're saying
good
is
at preventing
exactly.
death
That's
and
the bottom
serious
line.
illness.
It's going to prevent those serious 3 things. They still might get sick, but they're not going to get very sick.
Hey everyone, I stopped at a gas station in Alabama.
No lines, but dozens of state-of-the-art cameras in the ceiling that use vision technology to monitor every item selected by customers. This shop in Clonskee in Dublin is Ireland's first fully frictionless store. The process begins by customers downloading an app tied to their credit or debit card.
Welcome to a supermarket powered by Trigo. Our technology is designed to retrofit existing stores, enabling frictionless grocery shopping. We empower off-the-shelf cameras and sensors with cutting-edge AI and machine learning algorithms, making our solution both scalable and affordable. Upon entering, shoppers begin by scanning a QR code. At that point, Trigo's system links each shopper to an anonymous ID number and tracks shoppers and their product choices. Our system is designed to protect the shopper's privacy and is compliant with privacy regulations.
In the past, humans has had to struggle against exploitation. In the 21st century, the really big struggle will be against irrelevance. Those who fail in the struggle against irrelevance would constitute a new useless class. People who are useless, not from the viewpoint of their friends and family, of course, but useless from the viewpoint of the economic and political system. Automation will soon eliminate millions upon millions of jobs. And while new jobs will certainly be created, it is unclear whether people will be able to learn the necessary new skills fast enough. Suppose you're a 50-year-old truck driver. and you just lost your job to a self-driving vehicle. Now, there are new jobs in designing software or in teaching yoga to engineers. But how does a 50-year-old truck driver reinvent himself or herself as a software engineer or as a yoga teacher? And people will have to do it not just once, but again and again throughout their lives, because the automation revolution will not be a single watershed event following which the job market will settle down into some new equilibrium. Rather, it will be a cascade of ever bigger disruptions, because AI is nowhere near its full potential. All jobs will disappear, new jobs will emerge, but then the new jobs will rapidly change and vanish.
Well, behaviors are going to have to change, and this is one thing we're asking companies. You have to force behaviors, and at BlackRock we are forcing behaviors.
For ourselves and for future generations, a new world order, a world where the rule of law, not the law of the jungle, governs the conduct of nations. When we are successful, and we will be, we have a real chance at this new world order, an order in which a credible United Nations can use its peacekeeping role to fulfill the promise and vision of the UN's founders.
Inflection point, I believe, in the world economy, not just the world economy, in the world. It occurs every 3 or 4 generations. As one of the top military people said to me in a secure meeting the other day, 60 million people died between 1900 and 1946. And since then, we established a liberal world order, and that hadn't happened in a long while. A lot of people dying, but nowhere near the chaos. And now is a time when things are shifting. There's going to be a new world order out there.
It's a critical time because we know that we not only fight for Ukraine, we fight for this new world order.
Of this session, are we ready for a new world order?
Wow!
And welcome to another episode of News from the Pew. I am your most humble of hosts, Rick Barrett, the Armed Catholic, and I am joined by 3 out of my top 10 my friends friend list because they are the best of the best, and we should be joined by Ryan in a bit. Gentlemen, welcome. We have Steve Cunningham of Sensus Fidelium. We have our good friend Jonathan Arrington as well, and we got Fwaz, who has an album coming out in a couple weeks, right? April 19th, correct? April 19th, guys. Keep your eyes out for that as well. So we are excited to bring you the bevy of topics because I guess there's a couple things going on here and there. What we have planned today is, of course, we're going to address the biggest elephant in the room, or should I say mouse, when we're going to be talking about Disney being exposed after getting into a fight with somebody that I guess we all didn't expect to be the guy to go to bat for us, but unexpected times call for unexpected heroes. That would be Ron DeSantis versus the Disney Corporation. Then we have, obviously, we have to address the slap because everybody is, and it makes for fun conversation. I definitely want to get these gentlemen's opinions because we have men who have children and families, and the response off the bat was actually it's a good litmus test on how you define defense of a woman and so, or family, and what the line is and so forth. So it's going to be interesting to talk about that. And then we have an article from Zero Hedge today. Vladimir Putin, the most evil man in the history of the world besides Thanos, has signed a decree stating that all gas exports must be bought in rubles. Way to go, Joe. I think you just sank the US dollar a little bit further. So excellent there. But y'all got to help me with these polls at the end of each week because they determine the order. And I'm pretty sure Fawaz went and voted for himself because we only had one vote. So Fawaz won again, and as a result, he is going to be going last because he already picked. I was going to make Ryan go first, but since he's late, and John went first last week, we're going to go to Steve. And so, Steve, your thoughts on the run-up to the Don't Say Gay bill, which is just House Bill 1557, the interaction between the Disney Corporation and DeSantis, and the fact that, oh my goodness, what happens when somebody just stands up and tells a corporation, no, I don't really care if you're going to boycott me. I'm still going to protect 3-year-old third graders from being groomed by these psychotic teachers.
Want me to play the videos first? Or
I want to do the gay agenda first. Yeah, let's get the gay one. That's the first one because that's really the whole point of this, between normal people and these people who are seeking.
I grew up watching, all of the classics. They have been a huge, informative part of my life. But at the same time, I worked at small studios most of my career, and I'd heard, you hear whispers. I'd heard things like, oh, they won't let you show this at a Disney show. And I'm like, okay. So I was a little sus when I started. But then my experience was bafflingly the opposite of what I had heard on my little pocket of Proud Family Disney TVA. The showrunners were super welcoming. Meredith Roberts and our leadership over there has been so welcoming to my not at all secret gay agenda. And so I feel like I felt like it was, maybe it was that way in the past, but I guess something must have happened in the last they're turning it around, they're going hard. And then all that momentum that I felt, that sense of I don't have to be afraid to let's have these two characters kiss, let's in the background start, I was just wherever I could, just basically adding queerness to if you see anything queer in the show, I'm Proud Family. But I just was no one would stop me, and no one was trying to stop me.
I do appreciate how the closed captions didn't put the lights.
The context is also who is pushing it, what their record is, and what the history is in Florida. You can go back to the 50s, to the Johns Committee, where the legislature was actively put together a task force whose whole job was to root out civil rights workers and any homosexuals in the university system. They destroyed lives. Literally, people committed suicide behind the relentless attack. And then you have Anita Bryant, and many of us are of an age to remember Anita Bryant's Save Our Children campaign, which was premised on the same ideas that undergird this bill. And because of her campaign that equated being gay with being a child predator,
which you are,
she was able to pass a ban on gay people being able to adopt, a marriage ban, and then she took that nationwide. And so when we react to this, a lot of us are reacting from the pain we experienced of being isolated and stigmatized in school. But we're also reacting from the reality that when they can erase you, when they can criminalize your existence, when they can demonize who you are, the next step is to criminalize you and take your kids. And we're already seeing that in Texas. So the slippery slope between these ugly messages, emanating from legislative leaders in our state, and then amplified by our governor, whose spokesperson immediately began calling everyone who opposed this bill groomers, aka pedophiles.
Because you are. And now, real quick, before we get into this, I like how she's like, oh, they're going to demonize you and take away your kids. Oh, what have they been doing to Catholics and Christians for the last 5 to 10 years? Remember when they got adoption clinics shut down in Massachusetts because they dare practice their beliefs? It's all projection. When they get into power, they reign tyrannically. But as soon as you challenge it, oh, heavens me, I'm a victim because of the oppressions and the things that have happened. So a lot of stuff here, and a lot of people, Steve, not anybody here, but a lot of people, a lot of good Catholics are kind of having a reckoning with the fact that, oh, Disney really is filled with pedophiles and evil people, and I can't just toss my money at them, and I got to cancel Disney Plus, and I got to stop watching The Mandalorian. And it's a wake-up moment for him. What do you think?
Yeah, I remember a friend of ours, Joel, told his wife one day about a Disney doll because they hate you. They hate everything you stand for. This was about a decade ago or something like that. Yeah, I mean, you look up even just like Pinocchio, how dark that is with the child trafficking and things like that. Yeah, it's hard. It's one of those things. All right, do you detach yourself from the entertainment, or you stand for principle or anything? I got a guy that was lambasting me on Twitter for saying that about the passports and wearing muzzles into places and things like that, and say, hey man, you don't do what I say if you don't want, but have something to stand for, principle wise. If you don't like these guys, don't give them your money and stay. Hey, I'm not doing this because of XYZ. You go with After the Ball, that little booklet that one of the priests on was the Storm Clouds Coming. The sermon goes into more detail on the gay agenda, getting their nose under the tent and getting everyone, well, this is okay with a couple TV shows here and there. And then now it's everywhere. They always think what's that? Infinity and Beyond. What's that?
Oh, it's Buzz Lightyear. It's Lightyear.
Yeah, Lightyear. They got a new Lightyear show where there's Lightyear kisses, or somebody in the movie kisses a girl, or a girl and girl kiss in the cartoon. Like, why do you have to? We're part of the storyline. You have to that. And Marvel, they were doing the Marvel's Avengers. Everything was leading up, and you got everyone hooked. And then they come after with Eternals, and apparently there's a couple.
There's a sodomite couple in there and a love scene.
Yeah, in the next film. So everyone's already attached to that brand. They go to watch it. You get what is this? Their kids are seeing it. My wife likes watching HDTV and some like FBI and things like that. FBI there's a gay character in that. In the commercials, literally you can't get away with it. Every commercial has some kind of gay couple. Even HGTV, you'll see people, they're redoing a home there's always a gay couple in one of the films, one of the segments. You can't get away with it. They're throwing it right in there just so and they're going after the kids so that when they're older, it's just going to be regular for them. It's just like with the pronouns, just like with the one guy, there was a video of him being upset that he can't talk about him and his partner having a weekend expedition or something. When I went to school, I don't remember our teacher talking about anything outside of school stuff. Not like, hey, I went backpacking this weekend and we did this and that and the other. I don't have any recollection of that. And now you got today's tranny come out day or something like this. And there's gay this on NFL. There's gay that in baseball. There's gay this there. It's just the queerification of society, really.
When I was a teacher, for 10 years. I taught social studies, 7th grade through seniors. And my rule was always, my personal life is off limits. It's off limits. It doesn't matter what I did this weekend, because I always try to do this. But a lot of teachers, I've said it over and over and over again, teachers nowadays, and there's some good ones, guys. I work with some good ones, and there's some good ones out there, but you're like the 10th one out of 10. You're the one out. You're the exception, not the rule. But they're just kids in adult bodies. They never grew up. And that's why I'm a kindergarten teacher and they have the kindergarten personality. Or if you work in middle school for long enough, you adopt a middle school mindset because that's what you live in. But anyway, I'll shut up. I want to get John in here from Florida, who has the King DeSantis, who we are all hoping secedes and we can all move there and become part of the kingdom of Florida. Your guy, man, he's putting a slap down on Disney. They're trying to bully him around. I know my governor here in Texas would have folded like a cheap suit, but your guy's like, nah, we're kids. Nope, no go. Thoughts on Disney? Thoughts on your excellent governor?
Well, one thing too, just to add to Steve's point, which was a great one, is that they do try to make their way into things that at first they hooked you when it was seemingly innocuous. I mean, there's always something there, but seemingly innocuous. And so one example that I just encountered recently, because my wife and I had loved it in the past, was Medea, Tyler Perry, who plays several different characters in the movie. Latest one, guess what? There's a gay guy who is welcomed by his, oh, we all knew that. It's fine. Be who you want to be. This from the Christian, preacher. I mean, Medea / Tyler Perry preaches throughout those movies. And you got it in the latest Medea. You got a gay character who is reassured in his queerness by everyone, every single person. Nobody mocks him. There are folks who will get on you for a few of the, well, I won't even get into it, but you can cross them at certain areas, but not on this sacred cow for them, or golden calf rather. But it all goes back, as great as what DeSantis has been doing and is doing is, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's like a little bit of balm on a gaping open wound. And Steve kind of hinted at this, and you guys have said it the past few weeks too. What are modern day conservatives? They're what liberals were a few decades back, So as long as folks like this can adopt children, I mean, we're sunk, as long as they're going to allow that to happen, they're raising children. We're sunk, because then, we can't simply disconnect from the culture, which we have to do, and culture only in a perverted sense. But I mean, these folks are raising children, and that's going to have horrible consequences, not just for the children, but then for their friends and everybody else. I mean, God will not be mocked as well. This is a sin against nature. So eventually this is going to come out. I don't know how it's going to be punished by God, but this sort of stuff, abortion plus the glorification of this perverted lifestyle, just can't go on forever. So, I mean, I'm glad that DeSantis is putting a firm stop somewhere in the classroom, because, not everybody's going to homeschool and everybody's going to send their kids to a decent private school. But, if we're being real, and I think we all are, and we all know this, I'm trying to get it out there first. My one, somewhat intelligent thought of the day is that it's, honestly, it's a little bit too little. It's too late. And it's not going to stop the tide. The other thing would have been just to say to everyone, please, I know that we get a lot of tax revenue here in Florida from Disney, but this perverted group, please don't patronize them. Open up Interstate 4, which is always blocked because of folks coming in and out of Disney. Please just don't come to Florida for Disney. If he had come out and said that, I would have said, you are my champion for life. This is great. This is wonderful. But honestly, it's going to take a little bit more than this bill, which, all things considered, doesn't protect you from a whole lot. I mean, the folks that are in the public schools in the first place, is this going to really protect them from any sort of queerification? Honestly, I don't think so. As much as I want to praise my governor, I want to be behind him 100% here. I'm just being real. I wouldn't have that high of hopes for it. I don't want to over congratulate him for this, but it is good for what it is. But there's so much more that I think is going to end up sinking us on this one.
You're 100% correct on it. I mean, it's a nice conservative victory, and he'll be able to fundraise off of it. And I appreciate him actually having the fight in public with them to expose them. However, as I've been saying, school boards and legislation doesn't mean anything, because you've already seen teachers on Libs of TikTok saying, I'm going to do it anyway. You can, that's because they believe this. This is scripture for them, and they'll go to the mat. They'll get fired. They want to indoctrinate kids, like Steve and John has said. So Fwaz, get on in here. Your thoughts on this whole thing, especially from the entertainment industry.
Thank you guys. kudos to DeSantis at one point. I think he knows as his re-election is solidified, especially since the registration for Republicans has net gained, I think, 100,000 the first time in the state's history. So he can fight the good fight without worrying about his re-election. So I got a couple of things to say about this, and mainly because I spent the last maybe 5 years focused on moral theology and studying the vices and virtues. And I will say this, when it comes to the left, they will do this. They want to push an agenda and they want to push it hard, but sometimes they go slow until there's pushback from powers that they don't want to push back. For example, someone like DeSantis, who has a prominent position, who can actually push back. So what happens is what they'll do is once they see that a little bit of a pushback, they end up going full force, what they wanted to do. And they say, see, well, we're justified. We had to do it because of what took place. So my problem with the left, especially folks like this, if I'm going to look at it in a vice and virtue, because every sin that we see in front of us across the whole world, it's mostly based on our own personal vices that have accumulated in a social aspect that we're paying for right now. And I got two things really quickly to point on this. Number one, when it comes to someone who has absolutely no control over themselves when it comes to the permanent faults and their vices, like you said, Rick, they're children in adult bodies. Their emotional capacity, either due to some trauma that happened in their life when they were young, or the fact that they were just addicted to pleasure to a point where their intellect didn't grow. The lower faculties became the predominant way of judging what is true. Someone who is gay or in that aspect of it project a lot, and what they do is it's not just the aspect of lust, but also there's an aspect of envy. The fact that they themselves have been stripped from their innocence, they project that and they see themselves in that person, and they want to corrupt the innocence of others because they're envious of someone else's innocence. And this is why they go after children. As soon as that child, as he gets older, if he's been corrupted, they want nothing to do with that person. They move on to the next child because it's all about corrupting the innocence. They want to make them in their own image because they can't see themselves outside of themselves, which is a huge issue. And the other part about that is Disney is a corporation that Ryan likes to always say that is run by the powers that shouldn't be. And you got foot soldiers, which is their employees, mad and marching for grooming children who shouldn't be listening to anybody's personal private bedroom life. But they're going to push, and the reason they're going to push is because, number one, they don't want to have children, and if they do, they want to make them in a lab, or they want to groom yours. And my solution, I guess, just in a very short solution, is if you got Disney Plus, cancel Disney Plus. Cancel all the other stuff. To be honest with you, when Netflix came out with that one movie, I think it was Cuties. I think what it was called. I don't remember. Yeah. I got rid of Netflix immediately, and I said I'm going to go ahead and take half of the money and give it to Steve Sensus Fidelium because I think that's good content, and the other half went to Father Ripperger's Delorious.
I approve that message.
So my thing is find good Catholic content, and again, I said this last week. You know, you got the Daily Wire now is creating this parallel fight when they're doing this. I think they come out yesterday. Jeremy Boren came out and said that they're doing children content. You know, I think the next 3 years they're going to come out with this children content to compete with Disney and all of these woke children content. If you could take your money out of all these corporations and these things, because this does violate the principle of the integral good. You know, we must fight by, first of all, having right reason, and have our intellect and will determine what is, what it was a good fight, and get your emotions out of it. I don't care if you're attached to Disney, if you like a show, if it violates God, then get rid of it. And then give your money to good Catholic organizations. You know, Rick Baird's Catholic, the Armed Catholics. I'm sorry?
We also have the Crusade channel. Mike, Crusade channel.
the Crusade Channel. Get your money into those so we can build an empire among the Catholics so that we can educate the children that we're supposed to educate and minds are supposed to educate. This is how we fight. Get your money off of these corporations and start supporting small business that are Catholic, organizations that are Catholic, and content that is Catholic, like Sensus Fidelium. Buy the books, buy your books from Jonathan, get your books from Father Ripperger, get your books from Ryan, and fight that way. And I think if there's a grassroots movement going that route, we can get more people behind us.
Absolutely. That is something that people among us, Mike Church, who has the Crusade channel and Sensus Fidelium, how do you disconnect those people that have just become so connected to the mainstream? And let's just say this, when you don't have the Catholic Church that doesn't have the index anymore, when you don't have bishops that see these videos and say, listen, you're done. You can't patronize these people. That's the role of the bishop. You are a leader. You are supposed to keep your flock safe. You got to come out and be like, these people are talking about an agenda that is an affront to God. You can't patronize these people. And so if they go off on their own, then they at least know, hey, this is not something good, because unfortunately, a lot of times you'll see on Twitter or social media, you'll see preset Disney. You'll see all these others. There's a lot of stuff where people say, oh, well, it's okay because you can disconnect. And of course, that's when people like us are called rigid or radicals, or, we're just so awful. And so, Steve.
No, what you brought up is we used to be able to cancel a bad movie. It was the bishop that shut down the buses in Philadelphia, which we'll get to West Philadelphia, born and raised later. But I just got done reading Garanger for Passion, the history of Passiontide. And he mentions that before the revolution, he's talking about the French Revolution, before they got rid of religion for the secular, split everything, that even prior to, there were laws in the 4th and 5th century where kings, princes would liberate criminals because it was Eastertide, or businesses would close for 2 weeks because it's Eastertide, and slaves would not work because it's Easter time.
We can't even close businesses on Sunday, Steve.
We can't. Yep. I mean, I got flogged on Twitter because I mentioned on Thanksgiving how we wish the Catholic people would or anybody would treat Sundays as they would Thanksgiving. We drove to our in-laws. It took us, on a day like today, it would take us 45, 50 minutes. Thanksgiving, it took us 25, 30 because nobody's on the road. Nothing was open. I was like, man, if we treated Sundays like we treated Turkey Day, a secular holiday, what do you think the world might be? You think it'd be a little bit better off? Just a step like that. I mean, the Holy Face image just talks about the reparation for crimes on the Sabbath, on Sundays, on holy days obligation, and Sundays, which many of us don't even care about as much, or not just as was it Garge brings up the other day on Christ being healing on the Sabbath, being able to do good works on the Sabbath too. It's not just that they put your legs up and watch Disney. It's to do good along with rest. I mean, you could, not saying go out and do something good, but if you see somebody with a flat tire, help the guy out, something like that. We don't do things like this.
No, we absolutely don't. We all get mad because Chick-fil-A is closed. We get upset because why can't they be open on? But I agree. The idea, and actually I have a funny story back when I was still going to Nova Sordo stuff, not a dig, just I went to confession and I actually confessed. I was like, I had to take care of some business on a Sunday. And the priest was like, that's not a sin. I like going shopping on Sunday. What are you talking about? I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess then it's no problem. So I can go murder somebody. Cool. I'll be back.
We're good.
So we can just wipe this one off.
Only murder today, folks.
Yeah.
Was that a full sheen joke?
Yeah, that's it. I'm good for the rest of the day. But it just goes back to the fact that we don't have enough leaders who are in leadership positions. Like, where's the Bishop of Florida, or where's the Bishop of Miami or of Orlando? No less. Being like, nah, can't go. Probably because he's got like Disney Pass. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes. But John, the idea that it becomes more of a pressure on the laity, which is fine. You're the king of your household. Your home's your kingdom, so you're going to do that. But is it painful when you watch fellow Catholics who are just kind of just brushing this off like, don't worry about it? And I know I say them a lot. If it gets annoying, you can start a Whitlock counter. But Whitlock last night was like, even Whitlock, who is not a Catholic, is like, all we do is we care about church for 2 hours on Sunday, and then we're back to the rest of our life after that. We've separated them. And it's a problem that our leaders, or who are in positions of authority, John, they feel like they either can't step in or they just don't think it's an issue.
Yeah, and I mean, to be honest, it really comes back to what Our Lady was, if you will, preaching at Fatima. You know, do we have that consistent spirit of penance, wanting to do penance for the salvation of souls? If you all you'd have to do is open your eyes, and you see the world perishing all around you. Do you open your eyes, see that, and then say the response, kind of inspired at least by the words of Our Lady of Fatima, I guess I should be doing much more penance, you know, and making reparation for them. I guess I should be praying more. You know, I should be praying the rosary every day. I should be, at the very least, making the first Saturdays, adding, you know, some sort of Lectio Divina and prayerful consideration of sacred scripture, and especially the mysteries of the rosary there, to my daily prayer life. But without that, you know, no true change can happen. So it seems to me that until some country, hopefully ours, hopefully Russia as well, hopefully Ukraine, hopefully France, you know, the different ones have been mentioned in prophecies. Hopefully the Catholics in those countries are become woke, you know, to that reality, that without the change, it starts right here with me, right here with my family, and then my kids and my wife and I, you know, my spouse and I, we're going to go out and make a difference in the world because we're praying every day together as a family at home. And that's what's going to change the world. I mean, you read the accounts of the early church and you wonder, how in the world do you go from 11, you know, after Judas commits suicide? I mean, and I guess you can count Our Lady there, so you can still say there's 12 faithful disciples there together with Mary Magdalene and the others. But how do you go from that small band of not so influential people, composed of folks who had no civil power, and convert the world? How do you do that except through prayer and then going out and living like a Catholic? So unless we do that, no, there's just there's not going to be a change for the better. There's going to be change, there's going to be revolution, but it's not going to be for the better unless we do that. And that's why the changes that have happened, I hate to say it, but throughout most of the 20th century, yeah, we've had technological advances, but we haven't had cultural or spiritual advances. By cultural, I mean in the sense of the circumstances around the living of our everyday life, making it easier for us to obtain heaven, making it more natural, if you will, to pursue the supernatural. We haven't had any sort of advance like that. Or if I'm not aware of it, please point it out to me, and I'd be happy to praise it. But basically, since World War II, all the peace that we've had has been a peace for the sake of the kingdom of Satan and not for the kingdom of God.
Well, I mean, we have iPhones, so I mean, at least there's something. So you can download a missile app. Hey, that's cool. You can put it right next to your Instagram and kind of cancel each other out in that regard. So Fwaz, being the king of your kingdom in the bluegrass state, and I know where you go, but it's frustrating as a man who has a wife and children, trying to keep them safe, kind of playing like zone defense all the time on like, well, you can't watch this, you can't watch that. And they're like, well, my friends do, or these people do. And sometimes they're Catholics. And you're like, well, sorry, that my house, my rules kind of stuff. And it kind of goes to what Steve and Jonathan are saying, that there's no consistency across the church, which we could say for a lot of different things. But in regards to like entertainment, which you're talking about, try to find things that are Catholic that you can support, when you have fellow Catholics who don't even care. Their bishop didn't say anything. And even if their bishop did say something, they'd be like, no, it's not a big deal.
No, that's a good point. We have, as the church itself, you know, we have truth and beauty on our side. And a lot of times, you know, these bishops collecting millions of dollars through these, you know, fundraisers, they go through these parishes and they take this money and then pops out some really cheesy, you know, evangelize, you know, journey together with Jesus type of thing. It's like, if we, you know, from the beginning of time, it's always been a spiritual battle, and this is nothing short of a spiritual battle. This is warfare, and what we need to do is we need to take the beauty and the truth and actually create something that could be parallel with the production of the world, and give people that option, and stop asking people to support you if you're going to put out a product that is not as greatly put together as the world's. And again, I go back to this shameless plug. This is why I'm coming out with this Catholic album, was because this is parallel. It's like literally in your face Catholic traditional values music that you can listen to and your kids can listen to without you worrying about it. So when it comes to me and my kids, I just understanding the principle of for good. Listen, if there's immodesty to it, if there's blasphemy in God and things like that, I'm not going to show it. I'm not going to show it to them. I'm going to turn it off. And I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to cancel any subscription that puts anything out. That's like that. If I'm watching a sitcom and one episode blasphemes God, the whole show is gone. I'm sorry. I just got to shut it off. If you're going to base the judgment of how you feel and how this thing makes you feel, well, you're going to justify it. Well, it's just, I like it, so therefore I'm going to justify it. I don't want to turn it off. You can't do that. We have to fight the good fight. So when it comes to kids and things like that, formed is good, but really, we really haven't come up with anything that's worthwhile. And I think we need to put our focus on that. We have the money, we have the personality. If we stop fighting amongst each other, as far as Catholics go, and actually get together and build an empire like the Daily Wire is building, we can put out something that's great for the whole family.
Absolutely. I completely agree in that regard. So the idea here, and just a quick example from what Floz was saying, there's a show I watch on YouTube. I'm not going to name plug it because I don't want to do any of that other stuff, but it was a really good show. It was clean. I could watch it. It was like spooky stories and stuff like that, but it had beautiful artwork in it. And so yesterday they dropped a new episode and I'm like, sweet. So I'm watching that. And halfway through the narration, the guy talks about his partner, which his partner and his spouse, so he's a sodomite couple, and their kid. You know what I did? Click, unsubscribe, stopped right there. And I've been watching this thing for like 2 years. So I'm like, all right, dude, if that's what you got to do, I can't watch this stuff anymore. And I think people just don't have the strength to disconnect, because it's hard. It's hard here in America to get rid of luxuries. It's hard to get rid of comforts, which y'all better start learning how to do anyway, because our next article, you see, that's called a transition right there, is talking about this article from Zero Hedge, where Putin has signed a decree ordering gas exports to be halted if the buyer doesn't pay in rubles. This is in addition to an agreement that the nation of India has made with Russia, where Russia is going to export all the oil that nobody else is buying to India, and India is going to pay in rubles. So what we're looking at, folks, here, if Putin gets his way, and guess what? Everybody can say, oh, we're paying in euros until the winter shows up and you don't have any heat. Then all of a sudden it's like, oh, well, I guess your righteous stand doesn't really work that well. You're talking about and I think, Steve, you mentioned it, the Asian Pacific corridor a couple of weeks ago when they were talking about China and Russia and these countries getting together. You're talking about the dollar going belly up, and you're talking about hundreds of thousands of homes, people being booted from them overnight, and us turning into Venezuela. And you think $5 a gallon of gas is bad. You drive up there, it's $15. It's $20 because the regime in the White House have pushed us into this great reset, where they're trying to launch e-cash or digital currency and that's your solution to it. And so people aren't ready to give up these comforts, Steve, but I think they're going to have to get rid of them. They're going to have a choice very soon between the collapse of the dollar. And I'm not trying to be a fear monger, folks. These are just the things. This is the writing on the wall. When it happens, like you've seen in Ukraine, how things get bad quickly. When it happens, it's going to happen quickly. And there's a lot of people, Steve, they ain't ready for this.
And then nobody paying attention. Like you said, it's not fear mongering. It's storm clouds on the horizon. That one clip that we played at the year early with the blue background, that happened this week. That was this week. I got out of the YouTube channel as World Government. It says on the back. I'll play another clip from them here in a second. Well, everyone was paying attention to the slap around her round the Oscars or wherever it was. That was going on. Here's another one of it.
Pins a world order is always the financial system.
This was earlier.
I was very privileged. My father was an advisor to Nixon when they came off the gold standard in '71, and so I was brought up with a kind of inside view of how very important the financial structure is to absolutely everything else. And what we're seeing in the world today, I think, is we are on the brink of a dramatic change where we are about to, and I'll say this boldly, we're about to abandon the traditional system of money and accounting and introduce a new one. And the new one, the new accounting, is what we call blockchain. It means digital. It means having a almost perfect record of every single transaction that happens in the economy, which will give us far greater clarity over what's going on. It also raises huge dangers in terms of the balance of power between states and citizens. In my opinion, we're going to need a digital constitution of human rights if we're going to have digital money. But also, this new money will be sovereign in nature. Most people think that digital money is crypto and private. But what I see are superpowers introducing digital currency. The Chinese were the first. The US is on the brink, I think, of moving in the same direction. The Europeans have committed to that as well. And the question is, will that new system of digital money and digital accounting accommodate the competing needs of the citizens of all these locations?
So the UK is currently the head of the G7 group. That's the world's most economically advanced countries. And the UK currently chairs the G7 group. Our Chancellor, who does our economy, called Chancellor of the Exchequer, his name's Rishi Sunak. He put out this video saying that what they want to do is bring in this thing called the central banking digital currency. They want to replace fiat paper money with digital money as a competitor to Bitcoin and crypto money, right? But instead of being decentralized currency, it will be controlled by a government. It's digital currency, but controlled centrally through the banks, Bank of England. So instead of having a bank account with whatever, HSBC or Bank of America, you'll have a bank account directly with, in the American context, with the Fed. In the UK, directly with the Bank of England. You have a personal bank account, and you're given digital money in that bank account. These are called central banking digital currencies. The Chancellor of the Exchequer in the UK has already announced their intention to do this as the G7 group. And these, if you look up...
this sounds terrifying.
If you look up the Telegraph newspaper...
Central bank digital currency, is that the one down below?
Digital currency should be programmable. See that one there? Yeah? Now what they're doing is they're saying, you know, everyone knows that with inflation at over 5%, it's now 5.4%, right?
Yeah, I wish it was.
Our fiat money, the paper money, is increasingly becoming worthless, and we're headed towards a big disaster. The Fed wants to raise interest rates.
Never let a crisis.
We're in so much debt that if you raise interest rates, people are going to suffer because everyone, you know, we're living on debt as Western economies. So they realize that this kind of the lifespan of paper money is fast coming to an end because of the 2008 economic crash in particular. So they're bringing in these central banking digital currencies. Why is that word programmable in there? So what they said in that article, and the Chancellor put a video out saying this as well, they've said that this money that you will earn from work, instead of having paper money, you have this digital money. It's programmable so that you can't buy certain foods, or if you do something that your employer doesn't like, it's all in that article. You won't be able to spend your money. In other words, it's not money. They're vouchers. They're like food vouchers. And they can be programmed so that, like the Chinese, they're like food vouchers. And they can be programmed so that, like the Chinese social credit system, that if you try and use them on a certain thing, it won't work. You say you want to buy a burger and they want you to buy bugs, which is one of the examples used. If you start to try and buy unhealthy meat, it just won't work. You tap your card, you can't buy the thing because you've met your quota that month of burgers.
Or you're overweight.
You have to buy something like a vegan meal.
So it won't just be money in the sense of the way we have dollars or pounds today.
Yeah.
It'll be something that's controlled in terms of your ability to distribute it.
Which is why I'm calling it a voucher. It's a coupon.
But even a coupon, if you have a coupon to buy bread, you can still buy the bread.
Yeah.
Like, there's
But you can't buy, see that coupon to buy bread, what you can't do is buy a burger with that coupon. It's for bread.
Right.
Yeah?
Right. Do you feel like you're sounding the alarm
Yes.
for people that don't understand what is going on?
So here, I'll put it up for you here, yeah? So there's the video.
The group of the world's 7 most advanced economies, the G7,
is launching a set of public policy principles for retail central bank digital currencies, CBDCs. Central bank digital currencies could be a digital version of money, a bit like a digital banknote.
Right, so that's the guy who runs our economy in the UK. His name's the Chancellor of the Exchequer. And here is the article. Bank of England tells ministers to intervene on digital currency programming, yeah? And here's a quote from the article. Digital cash could be programmed to ensure it is only spent on essentials or goods which an employer or government deems to be sensible. Holy. One step further for you, Joe, right? So the checkpoint Charlie exists everywhere. They bring in digital banking, central banking digital currencies. You've got a scenario now that you're checking in and out everywhere you go using vouchers that are programmed, and you can only spend where you're told you can spend them. There's another word for that, man. That's called the Chinese social credit system. So what they are telling us, and when I say they, who's they? People in power. That's the head of our economy, the Chancellor of the Exchequer, second most powerful person other than the Prime Minister and maybe the Foreign Secretary in the UK, right? He's telling us, I just played it there for you, he's telling us that's what he, as the UK...
Analysis on CBDC, in particular for the use of general use. We don't know, for example, who's using a $100 bill today. We don't know who is using a 1,000 peso bill today. A key difference with the CBDC is that central bank will have absolute control on the rules and regulations that will determine the use of that expression of central.
Absolute control.
Yep. That's what it is. And folks, what they've already done is they've gotten you used to it on these things with your Apple Wallet. And all they said, well, you just like, and there it is. I've paid with my credit card. So they've already gotten you adjusted to it. So when this thing gets dropped, that's what we're looking there. So
and you mentioned the oil. Here's Brandon.
Which is before the Congress now. We can take advantage of the next generation of electric vehicles that a typical driver will save about $80 a month from not having to pay gas at the pump. If your home is powered by...
So there was an article out by 2035. They want to get rid of all ICE cars and combustible engine cars and go energy, electric only cars. 2035. They're documented saying that. The end goal is this, to be the technocracy they're trying to bring in, which if you don't know what technocracy is, I highly recommend getting Patrick Wood's books on technocracy. He wrote them. His last one was in 2018. And you're looking at it going, holy cow, this is what's going on right now. It's not what he raises the blueprint, but he's been on it for a while. He's got a website on technocracy. Just type it in, Patrick Wood technocracy. Learn what's coming out. So again, it goes back to the art of war. If you know your enemy and you know yourself, you can win. If you don't know either, you have no chance. If you know one and you don't know the other, you got a 50-50 maybe. So we got to know what the enemy's doing in this sense. Is it inevitable? It's coming. Can we do something about it? Yes, I think we can do something about it. The answer to all this is in the church, obviously. If the church, I just want a fair fight. I would love the bishops to come out, especially Rome, and come out against all this stuff. Give us a fair fight on this, because this is ultimate a global communistic takeover of literally everything. There was an article you mentioned about heat. Germany, guy told people up there, well, they're not going to be able to have some energy to keep heat. His little comments were, maybe you should get a sweater for your house so you can stay warm. It's the Hunger Games. May the odds be in your favor. Those guys, the elite, aren't going to go hungry. They're not going to go cold. You are. We are. We don't. I mean, there's going to be a time when you're not going to be able to get on the internet without your passport, without your digital ID. There's going to be a time when you're not going to be able to go to your favorite food restaurant, grocery store, etc. So you can take advantage of solution-wise. Learn how to garden. Learn your neighborhood. Convert your neighborhood. Learn to start getting stuff around locally. Think locally, act locally. Figure out what your bartering system is going to be. There's more ways than one on a currency. You don't just have a dollar bill isn't the end-all be-all. Gold isn't the end-all be-all. Silver isn't. Figure out coffee. Things like that. What can be a bartering tool further down the road when this stuff comes? Because this is coming. unless something happens and we get involved, maybe we could start, we get, I don't know, 1,000 of us running for office in different positions and figure out maybe a DeSantis in the sense, hey, break away from Florida in a sense, tell the rest the powers that shouldn't be, hey, go pound sand. The downside is how are you going to trade when everything's digital like that? You could come up with your own currency. I don't know how they're going to do international trading outside of that, or when they cut off oil. I know there's people doing their own oil in their backyards now. Texas could break off. Hey, we're going to have oil in the Gulf. The rest of you, get lost. We'll have cars in our neighborhoods. I don't know. Outside of thinking like that, I mean, you really got to start thinking of ways to beat this system, because you don't want to go in the corner and say, "Oh, woe is me," and this is all for naught, and we're just gonna, here it comes. The darkness is coming. There's nothing going to be left. You got to fight it some way. You got to come up with ideas. We just need ideas.
It's as Catholics, we can't be in despair. That's just, we have the theological virtue of hope. We always must practice it. John, I know you got to run, so get in on this. And then if you can, give me your cry room. And Will Smith's off the board.
Yeah. So just to follow closely on what Steve just said there. Yes, the ideas for the Great New Reset are all out there, and their plan is to push it forward. But it seems to me, and I connected these dots after reading Matt Gaspers, who's after the death of John Venari, leads the Catholic Family News. He put out a little something on Fatima a couple of years back. It's probably been 4 or 5 years ago. And it was really good. I was just thumbing through it. I'm trying to reread a lot of stuff on Fatima now, especially just the things that were written way back in the day. And we're talking even back in the 50s and 60s too. And even I got one book there from the 30s that was really good. And he makes the point that, there's a lot that could happen after a conversion of Russia that could really change the landscape, And you think about someone like the folks that Corbett has on every once in a while, the Corbett Report, to talk about how bad things are in Russia. That actually gives me hope, because there are, it's maybe the one thing that I significantly disagree with Archbishop Vigano on, is that I think things are still very bad in Russia from all that we can tell, all that the modern media will permit to get this way. But and they're definitely on the vax mandates. They've done a lot of horrible stuff there in Russia over the last 2 years to their populace. That's very bad. But here's the good thing. They've been collaborating with New World Order folks in so many different ways, as we brought out, I think, in the last few weeks or so. What happens if the Russian folks who have been collaborating before convert? What happens if even some of the Ukrainian folks who have been involved in all this, as we brought up a few examples recently, what happens if they convert? I'm always pushing, read St. Augustine's De Civitate Dei, on the city of God. I know it's super long. It's his longest one. It's just, it's a lot. It is a lot to get through, but it's so brilliant. And the one thing that he brings up the very end, he saves for the end, is the power of miracles to end up converting other people. So something miraculous happens and it converts everybody around the person to whom the miracle happened. You think about that. That happened to a lot of people in sacred scripture, happened a lot throughout church history, and obviously even and especially even in St. Augustine's own region and day there in North Africa in the late 300s, early 400s. What happens if there are miraculous conversions, not just around here in our parts here in the U.S. and perhaps even in Europe, but in Russia, and then that provides these, explosions of conversions all around the world? Then we've got a chance to, mess up the Great Reset, so to speak, because there wouldn't be enough people on board. So I pray and hope that happens, and that we really trust in the power of God to perform miracles that will allow the church to continue. I mean, what happens, for instance, if the thing that always gets quoted about the Pope, what happens if the Pope dies some sort of heroic death, some sort of martyr's death in exile, as seems to be prophesied there with the Fatima prophecies? What about all the bishops throughout the world? Do you think that might finally grant them a miraculous backbone? I think it's at least hypothetically, it's got to be possible that something like that could happen. So that's my hope, I guess, is that there are some miracles on the way, because that might provide, since we're, as Catholics right now, we're not doing a good enough job of converting the world. We could start tomorrow, but we're not doing a good enough job yet. Maybe some sort of miracle is going to be what, would allow it to happen, because only God can come through for us at this point, I think.
You're muted.
Rick, you're muted, bud.
John, you can't go without getting a cry room in.
Whew. How many people care what I think anyway? So I don't mind saying it. I'm going to say George Weigel and those who have followed him in defaming Archbishop Vigano. Again, I can't say that I agree with every single thing that Archbishop Vigano has written on the Russia-Ukraine conflict, but he has been systematically misquoted, and there have been misattributions of intent and even direct words by a ton of folks. And those folks will probably not be watching this. They're too busy defaming Archbishop Vigano right now. But I would say especially George Weigel and De Mattei, great historian, but has simply lied and insinuated things about Archbishop Vigano consistently in the very recent past. So for that, George Weigel and Roberto De Mattei need to, and accusing him even of perhaps being diabolically possessed, they need to go to the cry room and hopefully have a conversion and learn to speak of others, at least with justice, if not with divine charity that's required, and charity towards neighbor that's required of us as Catholics, at the very least with justice. And if you're going to, misquote somebody, be frank about misquoting them.
All right, my friend, it looks like you're going to head out. We appreciate you coming by, and God bless. We'll talk next week.
God bless y'all.
All right, so before we get to our own cry room stuff, I do want to talk about the slap. I do. I don't care about the actual slap, right? I don't care about Will Smith and Chris Rock. I care about the reaction where it's split automatically between it was good versus not good, where he was defending his wife or he was acting like an immature brat. And so that's like from a societal standpoint. Steve, I know you don't care about the slap. Nobody cares about the slap. Nobody knew about the slap until Monday morning when it was on Twitter, and everybody's like, what just happened? But did you agree with his actions after the insult? I want you to walk us through it from that perspective. What were your thoughts on the reaction to it as well?
Well, in case nobody knows what we're talking about, in case they are living around,
yes,
maybe they're doing something holier,
right?
I was the wrong place.
It's appropriate. Oh, I miss old Will Smith.
Started making trouble in my neighborhood. I got in one little fight and my mom got scared and said, "You're moving with your auntie and uncle in Bel Air."
Oh man, yeah, I didn't even know the Oscars were going until everyone on social media. That was the only thing you saw was this, that. I mean, everybody was talking about it. I thought it was a joke at first.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about the gay thing. Will Smith's first major movie was him playing a gay man.
6 Degrees of Separation.
Yeah, kind of funny how that. And then, and during the Oscars, they were the three ladies were joking about the Florida bill, going how they're going to have a gay time, and they're just dancing. And the first person they cut to was Denzel, who's laughing and clapping, and he's supposed to be the Christian man in the whole group too.
I love.
He's cutting it up and with them, and then he tells Will about Satan getting to you when your highest moments or whatever. Will and Jada have had an open relationship that she brought out on her channel and blindsided him with on her YouTube channel, I think it was. Told him that she was basically having an affair with one of his son's friends, and you just see the man being crushed in front of you. I guess it was live, I think. So they've had an open marriage now, so they're already weird in a sense, or disoriented, and it was one way to say it, I guess. And he's laughing during the joke, which Rock was just making a joke. And I know she has alopecia, And it's nothing to joke about. I know someone very close to me that has it, and so that's no joking manner. Went through hell as a kid with it. But he's laughing about this, and she's on record saying she doesn't care about what people say about her on this, but he's laughing, and she gives him that look, and then he gets up and gives an open slap, which a lot of guys, I tagged Fawaz in this because I thought it was a good explanation on Whitlock's show of how a man, instead of balling up a fist, he just opens hand as in, you're not worthy to be treated like a man. I'm going to slap you like a woman. And then ends up
also a feminine response too.
Yeah, it gets all his emotions out of whack, and he's up there crying afterwards. He was just really, I mean, instead of it happens every year when the comedian gets up and starts ripping somebody. Ricky Gervais goes to town on them with the Epstein things all the time. So what do you I mean? It was a harmless joke that even he was laughing, but Jada looked at him and say, go get him, Tiger, Spider-Man reference. And he walks up there and just in front of everyone slaps him. Should have been probably arrested for assault on national TV. And then they told him to get out, and he stayed anyways and accepts an award. If that was I guess we could bring race. What if a white guy did that?
Yeah. I mean,
what would happen?
If he smacked Chris Rock, if it was a white guy that smacked Chris Rock, then
you think that was talking? You think the Rock thing was talking about now? Imagine, I don't know, name some actor. Imagine Al Pacino getting up doing that.
First of all, he would have knocked Chris Rock out. Let's be real.
Well, first off, yeah,
he would have. Scarface.
It was a joke. How about the guy who played Muhammad Ali didn't know how to throw a punch?
His follow through was nice, but his wind up was less to be desired.
Yeah.
To be completely honest, Fawaz, I want to get you in here because a lot of people said, "Oh, well, he's just a man defending his wife, and how dare anybody say anything differently? You got to put the hands on the guy if they insult your, the woman's honor." And it's like, you're signing up for an award show. You're getting paid millions of dollars. Everybody's getting ripped. Maybe not the time. Here's one thing before my first response on it was that a true G, and I know I sound so white when I say this, a true OG doesn't get up and hit you. All right. I'm fine with them walking up to the stage, but you do it the old Irish or Italian gangster way. You fiddle with the guy's suit and you're like, "Hey man, my wife's got alopecia, right?" You get real close. You get real close. "Hey, my wife's got alopecia, right?" And then Rock's like, "Yeah." He's like, and then you put your arm around him and you point at your wife, like, "Then apologize to my wife." Make him grovel. If you really want to embarrass him, make him grovel to your will and apologize on national TV. You don't have to hit him to assert dominance and to get your wife's honor back, but to go straight to violence as a guy. And this is what I talk about when I teach concealed carry courses. Like, if you have a gun strapped on your hip, you can't hit people because your fifis are hurt or your wife's fifis are hurt, because you have the power to take life on you. You got to exercise emotional control at all times when you have that. So that's why I was like, and if you talk to any concealed carry instructor, like, nope, I wouldn't have, that's the worst thing to do. Because you've gone straight to what if Chris Rock hits him back? What if he misses? Like, there's so many different things, but I'm like, the gangster way is to bend that man's will without throwing a punch. But everybody's like, "Oh no, you got to hit him," and all that stuff. So now I'll shut up and get Fawaz in on this.
If you're in a pub privately and somebody said that to your wife, I can understand you're defending her honor, like you guys said. See, here's the thing: virtue of prudence, there's no substitute for it. So he should have exercised prudence. Number one, the fact that that there's a comedian up there, that everybody in the audience is going to be a subject of comedic, material, and you are laughing at the joke at first, and then your wife gives you this look. My problem with the whole thing is number one, I still think it's possible that it was staged. Now, let's not forget these elites. I was talking to my wife and I were talking about this last night. We're talking about how Mel Gibson, when he made The Passion, he went through hell after among the media and in the public eye. and until they bended his will, until he got, went back into the life of Hollywood. And I think a lot of times with these celebrities is they'll put them in a situation to where, hey, you want to be rich and famous, you got to do X and Y. And my thing is, if it was staged, maybe it's like, hey, everybody, pay attention to what's going on over here while we have this New World Order conference over here. So if it wasn't staged and if it was real, he should have practiced prudence, which should have been, yes, let's take care of this after the show. But to go and smack someone like that and humiliate him, I mean, that's going to be on tape forever. And you got to think about the other person's, I guess you would say, his Chris Rock is no different than the other folks. He's as woke as they come. So him getting slapped, it was like, yeah, whatever. But to have it done in that way, I think was humiliating, unfortunately for him. So, but the reaction of people, it's like, no, that was wrong what he did. I don't care what you think. He should have taken care of his outside of the show. So, but to make one last point here, and going back to what we were talking about with the whole New World Order thing, there's an opinion that the church will go. There's going to be 7 lives of the church, and right now we're in the 5th stage of the church. The 6th stage of the church is going to be the time of peace, which with the loss of Our Lady says is the 25 years of good harvest, the peace. And maybe we're heading towards the end of the 5th stage, where this is going to be, the transition is going to be very painful. And the reason I say that is because in the 3rd industrial revolution, everything that's happened is leading up to the 4th industrial revolution and the technological age and the Neuralink, all this stuff that they want to implement. And it shows me the fact that they're pushing so hard and so fast that maybe the enemy knows that his time is coming up. This is why they're pushing so hard and so fast. So if we just stand fast and just take it and be in the state of grace and continue to fight, because it is a spiritual warfare. This whole thing is spiritual warfare, that we might be able to see the 6th stage of the church, which is going to be the 25 years of good harvest, if we're still alive at the time, because I think the transition is going to be painful. A lot of people are going to lose their lives in that transition. So, yeah, Slap was, prudence. He needed to exercise prudence.
Absolutely. And so it's all great points there, right? Even if it was fake or real, the fact that you have people that are saying that's the thing to do, it's the loss of a society that has any kind of norms. And I'm going to say one last thing about Chris Rock, and then we'll move on to our cry rooms and wrap up the show. As a comedian, I don't care that Chris Rock gets slapped. But what about comedians in general? Now, you're afraid, you're working a show in Lincoln, Nebraska. And you're like, I hate Nebraska because it's flat. And some guy's just like, I love Nebraska. And he's just going to come up and like spear you in the middle of the show because, hey, it's cool because I'm defending Nebraska or whatever. People have these warped concepts of things. So, and not us, not good faithful Catholics, but society follows what these people do because they're false idols and they're worshipped for it. And so the standard that's being set there, it's a little dangerous, especially if you're a performer or like one of us. Let's say they see this and they're like, hey, Rick, I don't like what you said about Disney. And then somehow they confront me in like a supermarket. I mean, they can, and what about these other kinds of, I know it's kind of a joke because I'm like a Z-list person on these places, but.
Oh, you can't say Z. Z's been canceled.
Oh, X or W or whatever, whichever one is not canceled. I'll just move me up to that one. But this idea that you can just go around being Punchy McPuncherson because my fifis are hurt and you need to pay for that. That's a childish attitude. And I'm not saying, don't get down if somebody like grabs your wife or something, like that stuff. No, yes, you have to respond in kind. But I just don't like the condoning of it. in that regard. But yeah, all right. Looks like we're running on to the end of news from the pew
Well,
here.
one more
No,
thing.
go ahead.
Rick.
Jump in, Plus.
Just really quickly, you guys are talking about what if it was a white person that went up there and smacked him. Let me reverse that. What if the host was Mike Tyson?
Yeah, that would have been awesome. Because he would have dodged and cut, and that dude would have been out.
That's been one of the memes. What Will has done is launched the million meme march.
I hope he bought stock in memes. I don't know if you can, but I hope he bought stock in like a meme generator.
That's probably the best one.
There's been a bunch of good ones. Like there's been a bunch of. There's a company I think in Texas. They already did the outline, so you can put it on the back of your car. So like they did that on Monday, and I was like, I almost might buy one for the respect in your game, bro. That's impressive. The turnaround time. I would never put it on, but just mad respect in that regard. But yeah, you're right. What if that's the thing? What if Rock, or the joke was, what if it was The Rock who made that joke, right? Or even Kevin Hart, because if Kevin Hart makes that joke and Will Smith starts walking up, The Rock's gonna be like, we can't do any of this nonsense because Kevin Hart's my adopted midget, so you can't touch him in that regard. And I say that as a man, as a small man, what we do is we make friends with the biggest guy in the room for that reason, as a result. So I'm just saying, I'm just saying. Chris Rock needs to, his friends are Adam Sandler. He needs to make friends with, I don't know, some UFC fighter. That's what he needs to do.
Yeah, Suge Knight.
Even Suge doesn't slap people, right? Even Suge didn't go around slapping people. So I'm just saying. But it's just stupid cultural stuff. Anyway, let's get to our cry rooms and we'll wrap up the show. Steve, who you putting in the cry room this week, buddy?
I just mentioned his name.
God's sake, this man cannot remain power.
The White House trying to make clear in the aftermath, or making very clear in the aftermath, he was not, in fact, calling for regime change.
And you're going to see when you're there, and some of you have been there, you're going to see women, young people stand in the middle in front of a damn tank.
White House officials are telling us that President Biden does not intend to send U.S. troops into Ukraine.
If chemical weapons were used in Ukraine, would that trigger a military response from NATO?
It would trigger a response in kind.
The United States has no intention of using chemical weapons, period, under any circumstance.
I'm going to go with Brandon. So,
I'm going to take Brandon off the board next week.
That was a great one. Because then he goes up and says, "I never said any of those things."
Yeah, I love it. I love when old man River gets mad. That, what are you talking about? I didn't say that. It's like, you just said it 5 minutes. You're an idiot. Shut up, pal.
Now Tucker came out saying that the 25th Amendment should be used on him. Which, what do you want, Kamala next?
Yeah. Only because she's such a wordsmith. Only because she's so good with the words and the speeches.
Russia big, Ukraine small.
What about Jamaica today? She said Jamaica like 9 times because she was like a kid at a presentation who ran out of words. And then she's like, I got 3 minutes left in the speech. All right, let me just redo this again, and just said the same thing over and over again.
I know you're for it. Divorce from DC. Politically, that's the only, you divorce from DC, you eliminate all these guys.
Republic of Texas, Republic of Kentucky, Republic of North Carolina.
That gives us a chance on a political level.
Yeah, and all this other social stuff, because I know Texas, we have enough oil. We could easily be self-sustainable, right? We would, first of all, what we would do, no offense to my Oklahomans, we'd lock you up and take the fertile land you got. So since your Texas is attic anyway, we would just kind of make it official. And so that way we'd have a little bit more, some land to plant and things like that.
And a huge pay raise.
Yeah.
No more federal income tax.
Woo-wee. I'd be acting like Big Willie if I had that, man, all day, all night. But I got it.
Big Willie style all in it. Get jiggy with it.
Got jiggy. That's such white people music too. It's crazy. Anyway, Fwaz, you're right. You got in the crack room.
I know Will Smith is out of the question, so I'm going to get very creative, and I'm going to go with Jada.
Nice. I didn't say Jada was off the board, so there you go.
That's the one that started the whole thing. I'm gonna go. If she didn't give that look, or this wouldn't have happened. So I'm gonna go with Jada Pinkett.
He didn't step out on her husband over and over and over again. That's the thing. Rock made that response because everybody knows she's been dragging him for years. It's not. The guy. I don't know if you've seen the Reacher show. It's on Amazon, so probably not. big jack 6'5" guy. He put out a statement. He's like, everybody knows Jada's been 2-timing on Will. And if I'd like to see Will Smith come up and talk to me if I made that joke, because if you've even seen the promos, because he's just like big and ripped, and Will would have been like, ha, no, we're good and have a good day. But the whole point is that everybody knows it, and Rock's like, I'll throw a jab her way, but she's got the hold on Will on the biggest night of his life.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest night of his life. She's like, you gonna do something about it now? If that's me, no. I ain't doing nothing, because I'm gonna get my award and then I'll talk to Rock after. You ain't really, you ain't on top of my list tonight. But that would be really well. Anyway, final thoughts, remarks, gentlemen. Are we good? We're good for the week.
Yeah, did you give a cry room?
Oh, yes, I will step in, which means I will win, and then I will delegate, because I am so humble, and I will make the choice next week as your host. Jen Psaki. Why am I picking her? Last Friday, right before all this stuff hit, and right before Sleepy Creepy 2 Scoops went to Poland, she's like, oh, I got COVID again. Sorry, I'm out. So she didn't have to babysit Joe. And so that's why we had this bevy of incidents, because Jen Psaki was at home like, I got COVID again. Sorry, guys. I can't go anywhere. So we were subjected to more stupid Joe Biden quotes, because Jen got COVID after her 9th booster shot. So she's my cry room this week.
It was between Fauci and Brandon, because science is back, and he wants the lockdowns again.
Yeah, you can. I got words for you, buddy. I might have to go big jiggy if he tries to do lockdowns again on that, because we're the same height, so it'll be all right, right? It'll be like we do it on pay-per-view, a little midget fight, be fine. Don't worry about it. Be all good.
Listen, Cloud Planet for more information on that one. Yesterday's was a doozy.
Cloud Planet, Census Fidelia. Make sure you guys check them out. Make sure you check out Fwaz. He's on Instagram at TradCatSkills. Follow him there. Follow him all these other places in anticipation for his album that's coming out very soon. You can find me at thearmedcatholic.com. Same thing on Instagram, The Armed Catholic. Questions on firearms or any of that kind of stuff, preparedness stuff, send me info at thearmedcatholic.com. And I have a show every day on the Crusade channel from 11 to 2 Eastern time, crusadechannel.com. All right, folks, that's it for News from the Pew. I am your humble host, Captain Middle America himself, the Armed Catholic, Rick Barrett. For Steve, for Fwaz, for John,